ask you something? Have you ever tried to explain your marriage, what it's really like to someone like a friend, like a really close friend or family member, um, or maybe you've even talked to a counselor and you just kind of watch their face while you're trying to explain, you know, and you watch them just not get it or understand what in the world are you talking about, right? Have you experienced that? And you describe what's going on, the loneliness, the emotional exhaustion, and you feel invisible sometimes in your own home. And the person that you're trying to share this with, they're looking at you like, "Oh, Olivia, well, he seems so nice. He seems so nice. I don't really know about that. Maybe you try to communicate more. Maybe you don't talk enough or talk the right way. Or, you know, maybe here's the one that like really gets you, right? Is maybe you're just a little too sensitive and you walk away from that conversation, you feel worse than you did before even trying to share it with them, right? Yeah. Because now on top of everything else, you start to wonder, maybe they're right. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm making a big deal out of it. I'm making it bigger than what it is. Or maybe something is really wrong with me. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I need to grow up. I'm too, you know. And there's a name for what you are dealing with. It really is. And it's called Cassandra syndrome. And by the end of this video, dear friend, um, I really want you to feel seen. That's the whole goal of this video. I want you to feel seen and I want you to know that I believe you. I absolutely believe what you're going through. Before we get into it, my name is Olivia Hall. I've been in a neurodiverse marriage for over 25 years. We're still doing the thing. We're still showing up for one another. We're still changing and growing together, right? Not without challenges, but we keep moving on, okay? And, we're still here, and which means there is hope for you and your guy, okay? There's hope. Yeah, absolutely. Well, um, as we get into this, I remember maybe 15 years ago, we had a family gathering at my house, and people came over, and my husband, he was helpful, and he showed up and he was chatting and um, all the things, and after a while, he disappeared. And during this time in my marriage, I was starting to see things, but I didn't know what was going on. I was frustrated and all the things, feeling lonely, just trying to research and figure things out. But he disappeared during the gathering, during the get together. And I'm like, well, where did he go? So I went to go see where he went, and he's like upstairs, like in our family room, in our den upstairs that we have. And he was like watching TV. He was watching TV. So I didn't say anything. I was livid because I had a house full of folks to host. I love hosting. And, so at that time, I didn't know it was too much stimulation. He needed to reset. I did not know that. I did not know he was on the autism spectrum, right? So, yeah, I was mad. And then the next day, my sister and I would chat, and oh, it was nice. Everything was great. Oh, your husband was, he was this and that. He was funny. He was helpful. He showed us this and blah, 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 blah. But she didn't understand that. And I was telling her, well, I was so mad because, and she's like, oh, nobody paid. He slipped away. She's like, nobody paid attention to that. We had a great time. But she didn't understand all of the things that I had been dealing with and how hard my marriage was because I didn't know all of the things that come with a man who's wired like this, right? And so, in my own mind, I know what's going on, but people on the outside looking at us, everything looks great. He's fabulous. He's fine. That's you, right? So, and that is the heart of Cassandra syndrome. Okay. That's the meaning of it. You know what's going on. You're not crazy, right? You're not crazy. He's autistic. But people don't see it. So let's actually talk about what Cassandra syndrome actually is. So I'm going to read a little bit here. So the name comes from Greek mythology. Okay. Cassandra was a woman who had the gift of prophecy, and she could see the truth about what was coming. But the god Apollo placed a curse on her so that no one could ever believe her. She knew what was real and she could see it clearly, and no one believed a word she says. Okay. And so that story becomes a powerful picture of what so many neurotypical wives um, they experience, right? So you can see what's happening in your relationship. You feel it every day, the disconnection, the loneliness, the exhaustion of trying to bridge um, a gap that nobody else can see. Mhm. And even when you try to describe it or share it with somebody, the people around you, they just look at you like, I don't believe you. It's really what they're saying in their mind. I don't believe what you're saying. You're crazy. Or they just minimize it. Or they gently suggest, that maybe the problem is you, right? Yeah. And it's not a clinical diagnosis. It's not in the DSM, but it is real. Cassandra syndrome is real, okay? And it has a name. And sometimes just having a name for something is the beginning of healing. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about why the people you love and you care the most, why they can't even see what you're talking about. They can't see it. And so here's the thing that makes this so hard. Your husband, more than likely, is really genuinely kind. He's capable. He may be funny. He's smart for sure. Um, and, he's great at work with his coworkers. And maybe he's well loved at church, right? Or even in the neighborhood, people get along with him very well, right? And that may be your guy. And, the people in your family or the people you love, your friends, um, they're watching him. And that's what they see. They see all these wonderful things, good things about him. They don't see the version of him that comes home depleted, that comes home, shows up very rigid, um, and oftentimes emotionally unavailable to you, right? And they don't see the conversations that go sideways, right? You're just having a basic conversation, and the next thing, the whole thing is off the rails. They don't see you lying awake at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out what you did wrong this time, right? They only see the highlight reel. They only see the good things, and you're living behind the scenes, right? So, people on the autism spectrum often, they are very smart, bright, intelligent, wonderful, incredibly skilled individuals. Oftentimes, they mask, they hide their traits. They oftentimes adapt to situations and people around them. So they act, right? It takes a lot of energy to act like they are neurotypical. And by the time your husband gets home out in the world, um, doing what he does, the mask comes off when he gets home, and you get the real, unfiltered, exhausted version of him. You get the real deal. Okay. And so when you tell somebody, oh, my marriage is hard, it's hard, you know, and they've just seen your wonderful husband, oh, he talks, he's so nice. He helped me with this. Oh, he was talking to me about this and that and this and that. The math just doesn't add up because I'm at home, but they see him in a different way, right? And, you know, these things happen and your marriage is hard, it's not because he does not love you, but because, you know, they don't have access to what you do, right? And what I mean by that, there's a gap emotionally in how the brain is wired. There's a actual difference, right? And so the gap between what people see and what you live, that's the invisible wall. That's the world of Cassandra syndrome. Okay, I hope that made sense. Okay, let's talk about why, if you go to a counselor or a therapist, they may miss it. They may have missed, you know, what's going on. So, and this is very important because a lot of women that I've talked to have gone to gone to get counseling, um, and they do it sometimes for years, and they still feel unseen. Yeah, and that can be one of the most demoralizing experiences. Yeah. Because if a trained professional can't see what's happening, maybe it really isn't real, right? And here's what I want you to understand. Most marriage counselors, even the really, really good ones, are not trained in neurodiverse relationships. So, most of them are not. And so when a couple walks in, when they go to one of these sessions, and one of the partners is on the autism spectrum, undiagnosed, and the other one is not, is neurotypical, the counselor or the therapist, they often see a very calm, logical, mm, articulate man. That's what they see. And a woman who seems, very emotional, frustrated, all the things. And without them having that experience or expertise in neurodiverse relationships, it's really easy to um, kind of focus on the woman, because the guy, he's showing up, he's logical, he's articulate, and she's the one over here, oh, crying, and you don't know how. So they're looking at you instead of the husband. So, what does she need to do differently, and how she can communicate better, and what she brings to the conflict? So, they kind of focus on you, what you can do better. And I'm not saying therapists are bad at all. I'm saying that many of them need a specific lens to serve your kind of marriage, to really help you in your type of neurodiverse marriage. And, if you sat in a counselor's office and you're left feeling more confused and more blamed than when you walked in, that is not evidence that your pain isn't real, that you aren't experiencing these things, okay? So what you're experiencing is real. I want you to know that. That just means you need a different kind of support. Let's talk about what it does. What is Cassandra syndrome and these, uh, what does it do over time, right? When you live for a long time without being believed, something starts to happen to you. You start to doubt yourself. You start to shrink, right? You get very good at explaining away your own pain, you know. Um, before anybody else has a chance to dismiss it or minimize it. You've gotten very good at it, and you stop bringing things up because you say, well, what's the point? You start performing, so you just start to perform, and you you start to believe your performances, right? And then something small happens, and then he corrects you in front of the kids, or you reach for his hand and he doesn't notice, and then grief hits you, like a ton of bricks, right? So over time, Cassandra syndrome can look like anxiety. It can. It can mimic that. It can look like depression. It can look like chronic fatigue or physical symptoms that don't have you go to the doctor, they say, well, everything looks fine. There's no clear medical cause. And not because you're just this fragile little woman who just is so needy. No, it's because the human body and spirit are not meant to carry invisible emotional weight alone. Okay. Forever, right? Indefinitely. No, no. You were not designed, God did not design you for this kind of loneliness. And in the fact that you are still standing and that you're here, that you're still trying, you're still showing up for your marriage and your family, you're watching this video, that's definitely not weakness to me. That's not weakness at all. That is an extraordinary, I love this. This is an extraordinary amount of quiet strength. You're powerful. Yes, ma'am, you're strong. You're stronger than you think. So here's a question I want you to ask yourself. Um, is there a part of you that has been waiting, you know, for a very long time for someone just to look at you and say, I see you. I see what you're carrying. I understand what's going on. I see how hard this is, and I believe you. Have you been waiting? Has a part of you been waiting to hear that? And you want them not to fix it, not to give you a 10-step plan. You just want to be believed. Because I think that, it is not just the marriage that's hard. It's the isolation of a hard marriage that nobody else can see. Yeah. And I want to be that person for you, dear friend, today. I believe you. I see you. I understand you. And I believe that your marriage is hard. I believe it. And I believe you love your husband. I definitely believe that. And I believe you are tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. I believe you've tried more things than most people will ever know. I believe that. And I believe you, dear friend, you deserve support that actually understands what you're dealing with, what you're going through, what you've been going through. Here is what changes when you finally, you know, have the language to just the language. Okay. So when you understand Cassandra's syndrome, syndrome, hmm, when you can say, there is a name for this, and other women are dealing with it too. I'm not alone in this, right? It's real. Yeah. Something inside of you you can start to exhale. Um, and I want you to understand your marriage is not going to be instantly fixed. But because you stop carrying the weight of wondering if the problem is you stop fighting to be believed by people, right? Who can't see what you see. And you start putting that energy somewhere else, right? Where you can actually grow. And you start putting your energy into a community that understands what you're going through, into tools um, that work for your specific marriage, right? And that shift, dear friend, is the beginning of something different in your marriage. And I've seen it happen in my own marriage, of course. I'm still going strong. We're still going strong. I've watched it happen for the women I work with. It is possible, and you're not stuck here in this place forever. You're not. You're not. So, if everything I've shared with you today is sort of, you're like, okay. Yes, Olivia, um, this is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm going through. Exactly. I want to make sure that you walk away with something valuable. I have a free quiz. It's called the Neurodiverse Marriage Blueprint Quiz, and it is designed to help you get some real clarity on what's happening in your marriage and what your next steps might be. It takes about 5 minutes. It's a very short quiz. And the link is, I'm going to put the link right here below in the description. And I also put the QR code over here too that you can scan if you would like to do that. And I also want to mention my book. It's called You're Not Crazy. He's autistic. It's a guide and journal. It's a 2-in-1 book. And it helps walk you through understanding your husband and gives you a space to process what you're feeling. Okay. Because, here's what's true, because sometimes you need more than just information. Sometimes you need a place to put everything you're feeling, everything you've been holding, right? And so I'll leave the link to my book in the description below as well. Um, you've been so strong, dear friend. You've been so strong for so long. And it's okay to let something help you now, or someone or something. So before you go today, I would love for you to leave a comment for me. Okay. Just tell me, has anyone ever made you feel like you were making your marriage problems bigger than they were? Let me put that in the comments. Um, you don't have to share any details. I don't want any of that. You don't have to say that if you don't want to. Just say yes if this resonates. If you've had people like, oh, you're making it up. You're being too much. Stop it. So put a yes in the comment, because I read every comment, and I want to know that I want you to know that this is a place where you are believed. Okay. And if you haven't, dear friends, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do it. Um, I'm here every week for women just like you. I don't want you to miss not one video, not one. And before you leave today, please check out this next video, and I'll see you in that video.